But let's bring you to this important development now. In what can be described as historic moments for the People's First Nation, a 4.5 billion rand mega development of the River Club has been given the go-ahead by the City of Cape Town's Municipal Planning Tribunal. And this is despite over 100 heritage and environmental objections. The site, which is seen to be South Africa's first property of colonial dispossession by the Dutch, will now be rezoned into a business hub which includes a media center and a heritage garden. Now, though there are concerns that this decision is in violation of the National Heritage Resources Act, the First Nation Collective has certainly welcomed this decision. For more on this now, let's bring in Chief Zenzile Khoisan, who's the representative of the First Nation Collective. He'll be telling us a bit more about the rezoning and what this means for the Khoisan community and its heritage. Chief Zenzile, thanks very much for your time. Welcome to the AM Report and happy Heritage Day.
Happy Heritage Day to you too. Kaises to the people of South Africa and to you too, my brother.
Thank you very much. Help us understand why this is important for the people of the Khoisan Nation. I mean, it's a rezoning, it's 4.5 billion rand that's going into the River Club. Why is there contention around the changes that are going to be made to this particular site?
Yeah, well, the site is part of a broader project of what we've been fighting for literally since the dawn of democracy. And one of the critical aspects of this particular area, it's highly sensitive. It is the traverse route of the first major and most successful anti-colonial battle in Africa, the battle against Francisco de Almeida, fought by the Goronaikwa warriors and other peninsular Khoi and San groupings. And then it's also the traverse area or the back area of the First Khoi-Dutch War of 1659 to 1660. But what's historical about this is that this area has been a major pricking point between the Khoi and the San resurgence and the South African government, literally since democracy. And we've had negotiations with every tier of government, including and up to the apex of governance, the presidency. And eventually, after all our appeals had fallen on deaf ears, the First Nation Collective, which constitutes all the majority of those who have been at the coalface of the fight for restoration, recognition and restitution of Khoi and San people in South Africa, decided to engage, to leave government gridlock and engage the developer directly. What has then resulted was that the developer heard our concerns and was able to redesign and redevelop the development plan to place the Khoi and San people and their concerns at the center of the development, creating a world-class heritage center, a world-class media and communication center, a world-class performance amphitheater, and an indigenous garden where the indigenous knowledge of systems of the Khoi and the San can be practiced while we deal with the intergenerational historical trauma of the generations that have come subsequently.
Right. And Chief Zenzile, I guess the immediate and perhaps obvious question becomes, in what ways will this materially benefit the Khoisan people?
Well, first of all, the development for the first time in South Africa will set up a world-class center, a center that has only been replicated by the Maoris in Aotearoa in New Zealand, about 3 or 4 indigenous groupings in the United States and Canada, and some of the groupings in Latin America, and of course the Ainu people in Japan. So it will be a space to reclaim the parts of our history that has been excised, literally cut out of our national story. But it will benefit a lot. First Nation media practitioners will be able to be there, will be able to train our own people, we'll be able to tell our story ourselves and not other people telling our story. We'll be able to really curate and collate and curate our cultural belongings into a world-class a museum and practical heritage center, and we'll be able to employ many of the artisans and many of the skilled people who've been left on the margins. We'll be able to bring them back into a space from which they can become functional in the society. The other important aspects is that it will be able to bring First Nation or indigenous knowledge praxis back into the realm where our children, the young people that have become living in a wasteland and have become sort of drawn into social degeneracy, will be able to begin the process of rebuilding our people and our sense of humanity and the way we come to the table of nationhood. Because the Khoi and the San are not a people from the ethers, from the sky. They are an African people, and we'll be able to share with the rest of the continent and the rest of the world this part of the African culture that we don't know too much about.
Absolutely. It does then raise questions about how best we can memorialize people without necessarily anthropologizing them. It's an ancient old debate that takes place, especially in academia. Do you think we've been able to get that right in this respect? Because, of course, not all development is welcomed development.
Well, it is, for me, it's an anachronism to assume that Khoi and San descendants are incapable of having the tools to navigate the modern world, and that we have to be fetishized and literally be left in an anthropoid state. We will walk around on the margins of society. You know, as one of the people who's a progenitor of the Khoi and San resurgence in South Africa, even before the dawn of democracy, I have been able to look at how First Nations have been able to rebuild throughout the world, and I've traveled throughout the world. And from my perspective and from the perspective of many others, we believe particularly the academy, anthropology has been the handmaiden of imperialism, and the academy has been particularly ruthless because it is in many of our universities where the bones of our ancestors are located. So we'd like to be able to memorialize in a very practical way. We'll be able to bring to our people those parts of the national story that have been lost, stolen, and strayed. And we'll be able to do it ourselves rather than having other people who are not First Nation descendants tell us how we should memorialize our history.
Absolutely important discussions. Thanks very much for weighing in and helping us at least better understand these complexities. I imagine it's going to be a discussion that once again make its way into the public domain. That there is Chief Zenzile Khoisan speaking to us about some refurbishments and developments taking place at the historic River Club heritage site.